How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting and welcome back to chaosheadnoah. Last time we finished the Deus Ex Machina ending, which was the Sena route, which was really actually pretty good. And a lot of you commented on the fact that it was like the route that gives you the most direct interaction / clues about the Committee of 300. Now, I was curious and speculating on the whole series because I was saying like, okay, yeah, so that maybe this is the real Committee of 300. Assuming that, the way they were talking was odd. I had concerns that it was simply a manipulation tactic, but some of you did confirm without, obviously not allowing for spoilers, but you did say, hey, just keep in mind, this is a reflection of the Committee 300 that is consistent through the side venture series, like Steins Gate, and I'm guessing robotics notes and all of that. Like, if there's any references to the Committee 300, their actions and their intents, it is consistent with those. So yeah, seems pretty blatant that that's just going to be a thing. So that's pretty cool. I'll have to keep in mind a lot of that, and I'm trying to remember if there's anything from Steins Gate and Steins Gate 0 that is directly correlated to the Committee of 300 that I could like really reasonably understand. I've been trying to think about it, and it's been a while is the problem, and I'm just not sure because I feel like there's very little times where there's been actual like direct interaction, because in Steins Gate Core, we're fighting against CERN, basically, who are supposed to be subsidiaries of the Committee of 300, but they're clearly their own entity, very similar to how Nozomi was its own entity, even though they were like subsidiaries of Committee of 300. The human domestication project is clearly like part of the committee, but the route to do so seems to be up for debate and basically each side venture is the successful exploitation and deployment of a different like avenue of that human domestication project. Yeah, because it's actually interesting though, because you could argue is like successful deployment is debatable, because in Steins Gate they had the Alpha World line, which was a successful deployment according to CERN, which is where they used time travel and basically crowd manipulation to control people. Now, the way they control people there also kind of implies they might have been using similar systems that you see in Chaos Head, because they describe that the majority of humanity in the Alpha World line is basically suppressed, but like what's suppressed is free thought. They are kind of conditioned to just be docile, and that there's a very few people who break free of that and form the resistance. So that could be maybe like CERN utilizing technology that we see in this series, because this series has like the big projection backpacks. Imagine the Noah 2 wasn't fully developed, but they were still able to utilize like some of these more basic delusions, and they were able to set out basically kind of a delusion field that just kind of placated people. Not to control them directly in that regard. They use time travel to control them, but to kind of, pacify people. But then you get the Beta World line where the world descends into World War III. Now that's still considered basically a victory, but like that's humanity nearly extinctioning itself. That feels like something the Council 300 wouldn't be as big of a fan of, but maybe they didn't have too many problems with it. It's really interesting to consider that. And I'm trying to think if there's any specific clues that I've learned throughout those games, but man, that was a while ago. I suppose if it's stuff that I've already covered, I wouldn't mind someone sharing a bit of insight, especially if you could do a timestamp in one of my videos. But that's the other thing too, is like, because I don't share every single route, there's a chance that there's something that I didn't showcase on the channel that I saw. But if you wanted to, and it's something that you know that I would have been covered in Steins Gate, My Darling's Embrace, or Zero, you can let me know, and I will definitely love to give that some thought, or at least hear your perspectives on it. I'm trying to remember it. It's just if the references are really subtle, I might have like glossed over them. Like would I have like missed them necessarily? Maybe not. I doubt it, but at the same time, I get so caught up in the actual like story of the characters that sometimes those details that are referencing stuff that just doesn't have a ton of impact on the core story and the core character like progression, like basically it's like Easter eggs. I can lose track of some of that in lieu of just how much I am grabbed and holding onto the focus, which is the characters. So yeah, give me a heads up on that if you want to. But yeah, we're going to be starting another route today. And then since we've already kind of chugged through so much, I'm going to basically showcase anything that's new that pops up between now and us starting the new route. And you'll also see what route we're choosing to go to. But when a push comes to shove, because of all the work we've done before, I imagine we're going to jump right into it this episode with very little distraction. So I guess that's all there is to it. Let's begin. Oh, so this is the swimming suit choices, and apparently this is what I never select on a combination of. In the end, we're going to mess with count. What am I supposed to say to this? Oh gosh, Taku, you suck. Oh gosh. See, like glasses, that's your type. I did the glasses one. Oh, this one starts off pretty quick and easy. Start with the I felt bad about turning Mitsumi-kun down since you seemed so excited about it. Really did not want to go. You stay neutral. And we get the first instance of whose eyes are those eyes. But we have choices to make. So, just coincidence? No, it's not. Which is true. Like, this is actually very true to 4 of what this is. I'm making it all up in my head. No, you're not. This is happening. The NewGen killer somewhere in the school? Yes. Whoever wrote this trying to provoke you? Yes, definitely. That's really why it's here. I should definitely erase it. Yes. Ah, yep, there it is. Mitsumi-kun walked up to me and grabbed my shoulder, gave me a good shake. No, we're distracted. About a bit going on. It must have just been a common phrase or something. In other words, it was just a stupid, pointless scribble. I tried to tell myself that, but I still couldn't calm down, so in the end I just went up and erased it, moving quickly so nobody would notice. I'm guessing, because like, so she tried to provoke us, like the whole idea here is that, like, what triggers Yua, she's got her suspicions about us already, right? And she has the evidence and clues that she's been gathering. She goes on a kind of pseudo date with us to gather more evidence. And part of her being able to kind of move forward with that is that finding the cross stake inside her room. But this is probably an introduction to Pathline because she writes this phrase that she associates with her sister's death. And she writes it on the chalkboard because she suspects us and she wants to see how we react to it. So we react to it by, like, we look at it, we get a little shocked, and then we walk up and erase it. And she's like, all right, I got you. But now we go back to the normal grind. We'll probably be going through this for a while, so I'll see you probably in, I think it's chapter 7. Guys, you forget how just traumatic all this stuff is. Oh. Shibuya Station was a much different place in the early morning than it was later in the day. Young people were scarce, and countless businessmen, following a jarring ride on the crowded trains, rushed out of the station and scattered every which way into Shibuya. It was a place marked by indolence, and yet engulfed in the air of restlessness. The students at Suime Academy carried that with them as well. However, the number of them present was rather sparse. Shibuya Station was about 20 minutes away from Suime by foot, and on top of that, part of the route was an uphill trek via Dogenzaka. Most Suime students taking the train would depart to the stop nearest to the Academy's Shinsen Station. Kunosaki Yua, meanwhile, took the unnecessary task of walking from Shibuya Station. Waking up early for this did not cause any headaches for her. The heart of Shibuya was often suffocatingly crowded, but as soon as one began to climb up Dogenzaka, the number of pedestrians dropped sharply. Taking an extra time to walk and breathe in the refreshing morning air was something Yua quite enjoyed. It's probably good for her, too. Part of the reason why she chose to walk from Shibuya Station was to see the news displayed on the Jumbotron above Scramble Crossing. As she waited there for the pedestrian signal to change, Yua appeared up at the O-front Jumbotron, just as she always did. Oh, it's the alleyway. And upon doing so, she gasped in shock. The captions running across the screen before her had taken her breath away. The headline read, Third NewGen Incident. A certain boy's face rocketed to the forefront of her mind, a boy whom she did not know, nor had she ever spoken with. But it was a face that she had seen in the previous morning at school, though for Yua, that was evidence enough to convince her that he was the true culprit behind NewGen. Yep. Yua could recall the event of the previous morning vividly. Yeah, this is about the trap. 7 a.m., Sueme Private Academy. Yua marched quickly through the empty halls. It seemed like no others had arrived yet. Her expression rigid, she gazed straight ahead without faltering. Without a hint of restraint in her stride, Yua advanced onward, stopping only once she arrived at a certain classroom. The sign which framed the room number read 2C. Following a quick gaze to confirm her destination, Yua slid the door open without hesitation. 2C was not her homeroom. As a third year, she should have no reason to even set foot in there. Absolutely no reason at all. That was how it would be under normal circumstances, at least. But right then, she had a specific goal in mind. After methodically scanning the empty classroom, Yua approached the blackboard. She pursued the section of chalk color for a brief moment before picking up a pristine white piece. Then, using intentionally poor handwriting, she wrote a single sentence on the blackboard. Whose eyes are those eyes? She whispered the words to herself after writing them. Gently placing the chalk back down, she surveyed the room once more. Exactly. Her whispers continued, for nobody to hear but herself. In the silence of the empty classroom, her intimidating voice echoed. Oh boy. Ooh.
隠れて見ているから。私は見ているから。あなたは私の顔なんて全く知らないだろうけど、私は知ってるわ。知ってるの。あなたの顔を知ってる。だから私はあなたを見ている。
Gosh, she's way creepier than I expected.
黒板に書かれたこの文を見て、あなたがどんな態度を取るのか、ちゃんと見ておくから。ね、西條匠くん。
Yua forcefully bit her lip. After she had finished her task, Yua made her way to the roof to kill time until the students of 2C finally arrived. Then, 10 minutes before the bell rang, Yua returned to the hallway, peering in through the door. She kept an eye out for anyone who might react to her inscription of whose eyes are those eyes. And just as she had predicted, a certain panicked schoolboy was the one to erase the words. One look at his face, she could tell exactly who it was. Nishijo Takumi.
私は知ってるわ。知ってるの。あなたよ。あなたしかいない。
She muttered those words to herself, only for them to be drowned out by a speaker mimicking the sound of pigeons cooing. Is that what that's supposed to sound like? The pedestrian signal at the scramble had changed colors. The massive wave of pedestrians collectively ceased their standstill and began moving at once more. However, Yua remained where she was, paying no heed to the possibility that she may be in the way of those trying to cross. She simply stood in place, focusing all her attention on the subtitles that appeared up on the Jumbotron. Interesting. Alright, well that's kind of cool. Again, very kind of creepy. But, Nanami, how are you doing? I will say this. I do plan to do the Nanami route. I'm just nervous. I definitely think I'm going to do it on my own. I don't know if it'll make good content for YouTube. It might. I don't want any spoilers of it, though. But I've kind of decided that I'm not going to feature it, even though she is probably one of my favorite characters in the whole game. But I think I'll just save that one for off, just in case, because it really heavily implies that you is a romance path, and I just don't feel comfortable with that being on the channel. I'll just be very if it is a romance path, like a flat out one, or like it has heavily implied like implications of it. I just no. As much as I like her as a character, I don't want to do that. So I'm not interested in the route because like I said, I think I said it a long time ago. It's just like I want her route to be just a building a loving like sibling relationship, like a normal, healthy sibling relationship. That would be my ideal route with her. It'd be so much fun, but that's probably not what it is because, yeah, there's just no. So, yeah, it's not going to happen. Anyway, moving on. I will say this whole interaction and series of events now, colored by the knowledge that we have for sure, especially with us erasing the chalkboard, that she is directly investigating us here. And the fact that she's able to play up this acting so well is very interesting. What happens if we do negative here? I think we've done it before, but just in case. Oh, oh no. See, I hadn't done that one. And it looks like it's the yandere route. Uh-oh. No, that's actually true. But not because she loves you. Oh no. Oh no. Yua's face turned bright red. After the sudden confession, she started fishing around in her bag. She must have been looking for something. Oh gosh, where is this going? Oh gosh. Oh gosh! Oh no! That took a turn! She finally pulls out something from her bag, a brand new kitchen knife. It was blade glimmering with the light reflected from the desk lamp. I just stood there, staring at her like an idiot. That was all I could do. Things was happening so suddenly, my mind could hardly keep up. With all my strength, it took to swallow the saliva that built up in my mouth. And by the way, out of the corner of my eye, I just noticed, do her feet look exceptionally long? Her feet look too big. But then again, I should be focusing on this. Ryo grasps the knife in her hand tightly, so tightly, in fact, her fingers were turning pale. And then she swung the blade toward me. I shook my head frantically, doing everything in my power to get her to stop, but it didn't seem like I could get through to her anymore. Of course. She's so dang. The voice actor is doing such a good job. And also, there's something. How does this art look so menacing? Like just having like yellow eyes with red like pupils. That's such a menacing look. That might also make a good thumbnail. And as she screamed, Yua lunged straight at my chest. Suddenly, I felt a dull impact and an intense pressure. I looked down at my chest. It was the tip of the kitchen knife sinking deep into my body. Yua let out a moan near my ear, dripping with ecstasy. The knife gouged my flesh and my bones. And yet I couldn't feel any pain. Which could only mean one thing. This was all delusion. He actually realized it. That's interesting. Holy crap, that was way too scary. Yandere girls are fetching terrifying. I knew it was just a delusion, but it was so intense it left me with a lingering dread that gave me goosebumps. Oh, while I was lost in my usual delusion, Yua suddenly had a huge fall and landed flat on her rear. She rubbed her butt while on the verge of tears. And that's when she gets the spike. But still, I can't believe we hadn't seen that one yet. Oh, okay, so we're stopping here, I guess. This is like this is like chapter 2, I think, at the beginning of it. Kusanagi Yua was born with a twin sister. However, she had died 1 month ago. It had been ruled a suicide. The two were likely a pair of couple necklaces, incomplete without one another. Their bond simply was not comparable to that of ordinary sisters. The shock of her death left Yua feeling as if she were only half the person she once was, and that was how much she adored her twin sister. When she heard the news, an endless waterfall of tears sprang from her eyes. She collapsed under her sister's bed, desperately searching for the girl who had been living there until only yesterday. Why did she have to die? Yua searched for answers to all, but found none. It wasn't really suicide. She would never kill herself. Somebody must have murdered her. These thoughts only fueled the flames of her grief. Maybe, Yua thought, maybe she left behind a message nobody's found yet. Tormented by feelings of guilt, she began rummaging through her sister's possessions. When she did, she found a single diary, and within it were the words, "Whose eyes are those eyes?" Oh my gosh. Oh, that's terrifying. This was a clear cry for help from her sister. Even so, Yua had no idea what the phrase meant. With nothing to lose, she decided to search for it online. Among the results, she discovered a single essay. One that had been entered into the National Elementary School Writers Contest. It was a competition that had been held 6 years ago by the Ministry of Education. The title of one of the winning essays was, "Whose Eyes Are Those Eyes?" There it is. Nishijo Takumi. That's so crazy. Let's see the names. It's like the teeth in it, the plastic printing, caterpillars and vampires, armpits. What? Honda, come on. Winning, winners winning. The castrade. I don't know what that is. Chino. Naughty people. And fruit and bedtime. The author's name was written beside the essay title. While the kanji could be read in multiple ways, the correct reading was clarified. Nishijo Takumi, a 5th grade elementary schooler at the time. However, that was where the trail went cold. She had no idea what connection Nishijo Takumi had with her sister's death. Then came the incredible coincidence. It was rather common for Yua to pass by Shoto Park on her way to school. And in that park, about twice a week, she would spot a lonesome schoolboy eating bread. As Yua observed him in his time of solitude, she somehow grew fond of seeing him. On her way to school one day, Yua happened to run into a friend of hers at the station. The two of them decided to walk together, eventually coming across the boy up on the bench. Upon seeing him, her classmate spoke up.
あいつ、2年の西条っていう子らしいよ。弟が同じクラスでさ、引きこもりの肝オタなんだって。クスノキ、あんなやつに興味持つのやめときなよ。
So just casually drops his name, and she's probably like, what? Nishijo. The characters in his name would normally be read as Saijo. For it to be read as Nishijo, it was an anomaly. There's no way it was a mere coincidence. As soon as she could, Yua got her hands on a list of second-year Suume Academy students, and there was that name, Nishijo Takumi. Still, the shared name would not stand out on its own as decisive evidence. It too could be merely coincidental. So Yua decided to put her theory to the test. Whose eyes are those eyes? She wrote those words on the blackboard and watched as she trembled in fear. That was not the end of it either. Leaked eyewitness reports from the crucifixion incident, which claimed a Suume Academy student was spotted fleeing the scene, exploded across the internet. Yua had all the evidence she needed. Nishijo Takumi was a suspect, and he could very well have been the one who'd murdered her sister. Another week came, and with it another school day. As usual, I headed to school with my head hung low, depressed as ever. Autumn was starting to come in full swing. Hey, true to now too. The leaves of the trees in Shoto Park were slowly changing color. It was starting to feel chilly in a short sleeve uniform. I suppose it made sense that it'd be surprised by the change of seasons. Oh, wait. Oh, I should have been skipping here. Oh, well. Moving on. I just had a thought. So I was skipping through, and I just paused it. Like, it's just barely past the point where Yua confronts him in the park, right? Here's the thing. We got, with the new insight, this puts a whole new perspective on things. So she basically had a feeling that her sister's death was unnatural. She looks in her journal and sees the phrase, "Whose eyes are those eyes?" Ties it to Nishijo, to Taku. whom she then tests, and she gets a confirmation that he knows what the phrase means and is freaked out that somebody knew it and wrote it on the chalkboard. It also ties to evidence putting a Suime student at the scene of the crime of the recent NewGen killing, the crucifixion. She's got some pretty compelling evidence. If the cops had that evidence, they probably would be like, all right, he's a person of interest. We probably should arrest him. Like, all of that put together. She then confronts him, pretending to be not super pretending. I get the feeling she actually is interested in anime, but she hams it up a bit in order to get closer to him, takes him home, and goes and acquires actual evidence that he was likely at the scene, the cross from the crucifixion site. She's convinced that she's found the person who was directly related somehow to the death of her sister. And her decision, when he inadvertently sees evidence that she is onto him, she confronts him, and she doesn't accuse him of being a murderer directly. Instead, she accuses him of being ill. She feels like his life must be so hard because she thinks that he's got this multiple personality, that he's got something going on because the person she's met doesn't feel like a killer. And yet the evidence all says that he's directly involved. And she chooses the compassionate route because she feels bad for him. The fact that she basically has what most people would consider enough evidence to say, yeah, this person killed your sister or did something that led to her death. And instead chooses to be like, hey, there's something wrong with you. You need help. I want to help you. You need to turn yourself in, basically. That's a pretty big deal if you think about it. I mean, we have for contrast, Sena. She has pretty strong evidence that her dad was involved in the death of her sister and mother. And she dedicated the rest of her life to trying to kill him. Granted, she's not as dedicated as she thinks she is, because every time she gets the chance, she's always hesitated. And yet, we see how that's how Sena handles that, and Yua has basically every right to be feeling the same way, or similar way at least. And she still chooses to say, hey, turn yourself in and try to get help. She basically said, I got enough evidence, I could take it to the police, but I want to give you an opportunity to do this yourself. It's a pretty big deal, actually. It really is a big deal. Anyway, moving on back to our regularly scheduled skipping. Okay, so I just tried to pause it because I just realized something here. Something I hadn't quite picked up on before. Oh, I'm learning so many things this time around. So he goes to the doctor's office, right? But when he goes in to meet with the doctor and when the nurse who is Grim is there, we hear the strange sound of one of the devices going off. So one of those devices is currently active in this room right now. Is that why we're having this delusion particularly? Or is it just in general we're having a delusion in the actual office? Or is the delusion for the doctor? Maybe to prevent the doctor from recognizing us, because that's the whole thing, is that he doesn't really remember who we are. I don't know. But she's in here with one of those remote devices and it's active for some reason. Right.
でも、無遊病の症状は結局出ませんでしたよ。
I don't... Oh yeah, there it is. Hear it? Yeah. Oh, that's super subtle. That's very subtle. I don't think I would have noticed that my first playthrough at all. If I heard it, I didn't register because it didn't mean anything to me. And that's the thing that's kind of cool about those devices if you think about it. It's the idea that yeah, it's not like people wouldn't hear the sound, but most people would be like, whatever, it's just background noise, something like the hum of a refrigerator. That's a sound that you don't ever think about, but it's absolutely there all the time. Oh, that's so cool. That's so interesting that it's been there. All right, gotta do this again. All right. I'll skip through this stuff because I've actually tested, and I think we showcased all the like the different like extreme reactions. We had the middle one, we had the extreme like delusion, and the extreme non-delusion. So all right, let's do tip real quick because I want to see diagnosis. All right, so I just got the moderate one again. This is the one I got when I first did it, like when I was trying to be like more honest with it all. All right, so quick reminder, someone mentioned in the comments, and like I feel like I kind of knew this before, but we'll go over it again. We're gonna listen to the voice of this like mysterious call when you do the good delusion. So like this is like it's the voice actor for Sena who's doing like this really like tsundere call, which totally makes sense too. I think at the time I said it reminded me of Kurusu's voice. Like it might have just been like the tone because like she's also kind of channels that very tsundere vibe, but I think I could hear it better that it's more Sena.
クラスが別になって最近話す機会が少なくなったね。あんた私のことどう思ってるわけ？例えばさ、私に告ってみようとか思わないわけ？
Yeah. All right, so we're going to get back to the skipping. I just thought this was like an interesting note because someone made a comment about it recently. And I was like, yeah, I feel like I kind of had that thought. But again, I was just enjoying the moment at the time. So, continuing. Oh, guys, I found another one. So we're here at the point where Rimi's with us. We're doing the kind of like, she has to borrow our, like the CD, came home with us, and we're doing like the kind of investigating. We learn about like the concept of the satellite and the type of different like mechanisms. I even did a delusion where he like pretends to be summoning a D sword and he almost sees it in his head, and Rimi kind of like shuts it down like suspiciously, like saying like, hey, don't try to do that anymore. And then right after that, there's a delusion here, and I guess I've never done the positive one here, so here we go. I was at a loss about what to do, so I opted to subtly examine Rimi's expression. Oh, fetch! Oh! We have done this one! Last time we did it, she was in like, so we've done, I think, a neutral one where she was in her normal school outfit. We did one where she was in like a kind of like a casual outfit, and now we're in this. Oh, you two, forgive me for these. Ugh. The game really, really, really wants you to like Rimi. She's definitely cute, but like it's almost like it tries too hard, and it makes me not as interested in her for some reason. What the heck? What the heck? My mind went completely blank. I couldn't even keep up with this sudden and outrageous turn of events. I couldn't even lift a finger. The shock had rendered me unable to speak.
どうかした?
In the blink of an eye, Rimi had stripped off her school jacket, and not just that, but upon taking a closer look, she'd removed her skirt too. As if her extreme outfit wasn't enough, she was also hugging her knees, making it look like she was completely commando. In other words, at this very moment, Rimi, who was sitting right next to me with her head tilted and her eyes locked on me, was covering her underwear with nothing but more than a mere shirt. The first thing that popped into my head was the classic private tutor eroge, of course. Titled The Unrelenting Emily Sensei. The third chapter has a scene that went exactly like what I was experiencing right now. To think something straight out of an eroge was actually happening to me in reality. What eroge is that from? Really? What the F? What a delusion? An illusion, or was it legit? Oh gosh. Don't do that. Regardless of whether it was a delusion or not, there's no mistake that Rimi is dressed in an incredibly lewd outfit. Against my better judgment, her eyes made themselves toward her chest. Unfortunately, it is pretty much a reflex. The neck of her shirt went down to the breast, and then thanks to the angle I was looking at her from, I could see what was underneath. The bright pink bra. You have to be surprisingly large for this breast, Sakihata-san. Wait, stop, she'll think you're pervert if you hoggle her like that. Don't look, stop looking. I lowered my gaze. Lowered? Wrong move. Only to find myself looking at her hips. Holy fetching glory. She wasn't wearing she really wasn't wearing a skirt. I can see your panties, Sakihata-san. What a simple yet lovely pair. That would make some excellent fat material. This dude. Oh my gosh, every time. Oh, my Johnson's trying to make himself very known. Her body had been giving off a nice scent for a while now. How should I put it? The texture of her skin combined with her amazing figure, it all put 2D to shame. Was this the true power of the third dimension? Not gonna lie, she was hot as fetch. She seemed very capable of instantly obliterating the values I held dear until now, even though I'd never been into 3D, nor had I ever planned to change that, even though I'd only ever loved 2D characters. Right now, Rimi had enough destructive power to fetching obliterate those lofty values with a single strike. And she's very aware of how you're ogling her, I'm sure. Her faint breath, which sounded almost aroused. That delicately swaying, lustrous hair. The way her chest rose and fell with each breath. The manner with which she seductively rubbed her thighs together. Those shimmering eyes, the pink tongue peeping out from her partially opened lips. It was getting hard to breathe. My mind was in a completely other dimension. What was this feeling? It was akin to that of agonizing feeling of yearning I felt whenever I started an H scene in Naroge. I couldn't keep calm. Oh gosh. Rimi called my name in a sickly sweet voice. My eyes were now permanently glued to her body. It was the first time I'd ever seen a physically mature girl so up close. Oh gosh, like, the implications of that are just gross. Was Rimi trying to seduce me? Did she like me? Just roll the eyes, that's all we could do. So I had to admit I wasn't a fan of how shamelessly she was going about it. I guess it was just that I preferred love to come from the subtle nurturing of platonic affection. Once graduated it shouldn't arrive, that love would come to fruition through the bashful confession spoken under the Oak of Legends. Oh no, not the Oak of Legends. That's a trope that absolutely comes through so many games. And like, it's absolutely like, I don't know where it originated, but it's definitely coded in like Muv-Luv, and it's like, you know, in-universe games for sure. I don't know if that's where it started, but that's certainly what, like, the most prominent I've seen it displayed, the Oak of Legends. Having mustered so much courage to say that to me, she then cried tears of joy when I said yes, leading us to a kiss, and then, well, that was what I wanted. The current way of things were going was far from platonic. Oh gosh. Unable to endure the horniness any longer, I eagerly rose to my feet. What did I have? Was there anything in the fridge? Is that the kind of woman that men go to war for? I had some half-finished cola that I drank directly from the bottle, so it probably wouldn't be the best idea to give it to Rimi. Felt Rimi stand up behind me. She was leaving. And she's gone. I frantically turned around to see Rimi, still dressed in that shameless outfit, opening the door and heading outside. She was gone to go to the convenience store while people could see her panties? That wasn't normal. Was Rimi an exhibitionist or something? Delusion over. Oh gosh, you said that out loud? Or is she reading your thoughts? Hearing that behind me made me literally jump in the air and land on my butt. There stood Rimi, who had been just about to leave the room. And not only that, but she was wearing her usual outfit and was fully on. She looked down at me with wide eyes. Yeah, I know, right? So that delusion was like all of this very quick. Thank goodness for that. Why was Rimi there now? She should have been just about to leave the container. Had that half-naked Rimi been a delusion? But she'd felt so real. I hadn't touched her, but merely looking at her skin made me think how squishy and soft it'd be if I touched it. Wait, what the hell was I saying? I was losing my mind today. Oh, brother, I'm right there with you. I cringed when she called my name. Did she hate me now? What would I do if she was already fed up with me? If Rimi wouldn't stay with me, it wouldn't even be able to go out alone anymore.
私、喉乾いてきちゃった。何か飲み物ある?
It is kind of creepy, though. I think this is the only delusion we've had in this scene where, because like the other two, because they were relatively normal, kind of play out and she just kind of left. But this one, the delusion happened. We snapped to reality before she leaves, but it's playing out just like the delusion did, besides the clothing change. That's kind of creepy because that implies that there is a bit of like a future sight or prediction ability in his delusions. Of course, you could also just read that as being able to just have a good sense of how people will behave, but I don't see Taku as being the kind of person who has an innate sense of understanding how people normally behave. Just something about him tells me that he's not too clued into that. She'd asked the exact same thing as before. However, rather than the sultry tone from before, her voice is perfectly normal now. I shook my head from side to side. Rimi poked her temple with her index finger and pursed her lips in thought.
ないなら買ってこようかな。コンビニって深センの駅前にあったよね。
Yeah.
ちょっと行ってくる。
And off she goes. She gave me a big smile, then left without waiting for my response. I could only watch her leave in a daze. She was going to the convenience store in her uniform, which was completely normal. That half-naked Rimi from before really had been a delusion. Felt a mixture of both relief and slight disappointment. But that half-naked Rimi, ISA splitting in two? What kind of mechanism was capable of reproducing those delusions accurately enough to feel real? Had it even been that, though? Did I have powers or not? And if I did, how could I actively use them? How could I obtain a D-sword? I was still stuck deep in the maze of questions, unable to do anything but wander around aimlessly. Okay, so... Oh, right, so this is like the next day, but he's reflecting on Rimi in the delusion he had. Got to think of it, what the hell was up with her acting so sexual before? It felt way too real to be called a hallucination. No matter how much I tried to convince myself otherwise, I just couldn't get over how sexy it was. It wasn't like I'd stared at them or anything, but I could definitely say that I'd seen some folds in her pants. Oh my gosh, dude, calm down. As a self-proclaimed panty expert, albeit only to figures, I knew how realistic the folds had been. They had a level of detail you wouldn't see in a delusional fuhehe. Okay, you know what? Who cares about dumb crap like that? Just forget it. There we go. Oh gosh. So we had the whole thing where Kozufi's like walking out, and then Rimi like normally would play like the cover our eyes game. Apparently I've never done the neutral. I've only done the negative or the positive. Rimi hurried over to me in half a sprint.
わざわざ待っててくれたんだ。ありがとう。そんなに私と一緒に帰りたかった?
Oh gosh, yeah, of course he did. She peered into my face with a broad grin. I quickly turned away. Thanks to the setting sun, she shouldn't have noticed my face turning red. Rather than waiting to head home together, it was more like I was too scared to do it alone. Yeah, I even felt paranoid just waiting alone at the gate. What if Yua was hiding in the shadows? Rimi should have known that, and yet she was deliberately probing me in a teasing manner.
ああ、嘘でもいいからそうだって言ってほしかったな。ねえ、私さ。
Rimi had an unexpectedly distant look in her eyes. They shone faintly with the afterglow of the sunset.
タクの力になれて結構嬉しいよ。
Aww, I mean we know why, but still, it is sweet.
ありがとう。
I thanked her out of reflex. I truly was thankful, though. Rimi had become completely irreplaceable to me. Until I found the D-sword, she was all I had to rely on.
どういたしまして。
With a joyous smile, Rimi guided me away.
さあ、帰ろう。
Every time this scene comes up, man, it's so traumatic. Every single time. Whose phone was ringing? We're not gonna go through it again. We're not gonna sit here and stare at it again. But we're here. Huh. Oh, interesting. Okay, so we have an interesting thing here. I don't know what it's tied to yet, because we have the interaction with Kozufi and Sena, where we like meet up, they talk about Gigomaniacs, take the picture as a group with friends, right? And then, like, it phases, like, it's at the beginning of a new chapter where we see Nozomi get it, like, the Nozomi group getting together talking about, like, their evil machinations. But then we go into this, and it's like Ban supposed to be meeting with Momose, who we now know is a member, an observer of the Council of 300, the Committee of 300. But here, it's like stopped, because it's like something new. So I don't know what it's tied to directly, but here we go. Initiated by Momose, a meeting was slated to be held at the Frieza Credit Bureau, and a meeting of which Ban was now running entirely half an hour late for. Momose's angry voice hurtled into him as he entered the office. In response to this, Ban gave a minor shrug, then proceeded to walk up to the desk of Frieza's president with an amiable smile on his face. He had not brought any refreshments today, something he was beginning to believe he may have been a lapse in judgment. I feel like I've read this before, but it's not skipping.
今日は別行動。
若い子をこき使ってバンちゃんは楽してるわけね。
Okay. I feel like I have seen this conversation before.
昨日だって徹夜でいろいろ調べてたんだぜ。おかげで最近の女子高生の生態についてはかなり詳しくなった。
Oh, is it slowing down though? Because this is when Yua technically joins the investigation team, and because we're doing this route where she got like additional information with the whose eyes are those eyes clue, it has a different dialogue. Okay.
あんたね、呆れて物も言えないわ。
で、こうして俺を呼びつけたってことは、あの子と連絡取れたってこと？
今来てるわ。
Ah, yeah, here she is, yep.
さすがももちゃん。ちなみに、可愛い子かい？
Smack, yep, thoroughly deserved. Momose properly smacked Ban over the head, stopping his opportunistic grin in his tracks. The sheer speed with which he had turned her wrist made the slap especially fierce.
いつまでもバカなこと言ってんじゃないわよ、エロ親父。
冗談だって。
Before arriving at the building, Ban had made a private request of Momose. It entailed setting up a meeting between him and a certain person connected to the NewGen cases. Rather than anything work-related, it was merely to satiate a personal curiosity. He was not planning on talking about anything related to the NewGen investigations for the time being. Due to his position, Ban could not simply meet with the person on his own, else he would risk drawing the ire of the detectives he was getting ahead of. Momose urged Ban over to the corner of the office. It was fairly cramped space, almost all of which was taken up by shelves packed full of files. The location was used as a reception area of sorts, and a pair of love seats had been wedged into the only place they could fit. Ban entered the section after Momose, and his eyes landed upon the lone girl sitting on one of the love seats. The girl was wearing a Sueme Academy uniform. Her head and shoulders were curved towards the ground. She looked incredibly haggard.
ごめんね。お待たせしちゃって。
The girl looked up in startlement upon hearing Momose, and in the process her glasses had slipped down her nose a bit, leading to her swiftly readjust them with her finger.
いえ、平気です。
When she saw Ban, her expression turned slightly fearful before bowing her head and grin a greeting one moment later. Ban felt somewhat hurt by this, and he had made every attempt to look as non-threatening as possible in both bearing and appearance, but the girl's reaction made him realize that despite his best efforts, the ferocity and intimidation particular to detectives was seeping out all the same. Looks like I still got a lot more practicing to do, he thought with a bitter amusement as he sat across from Yua.
楠木優愛さんだね。
はい。
亡くなった美愛さんの双子の姉。それで間違いないかな。
Yua slightly adjusted her posture, then returned a nod. The first NewGen incident, the group dive. Among the 5 high schoolers that had leapt from their deaths was a girl named Kusunoki Miya.
まあ、そんな緊張しなさんな。君を取り調べようなんて思っちゃねえんだ。雑談程度に思ってよ。本題に入る前に、ちょっと聞いていいかい？
Oh, sure.
ゆあちゃんは妹さんが亡くなったことについてどう思う？
God, what an opening question.
ちょっとバンちゃん。
あ、悪いね。職業病ってやつか。気を使うような言い方できなくってな。ただ、 気になってたんだ。捜査本部でも話題になってたんだが、楠木美也さんの遺族は奇妙だって。
Oh, okay.
ばあちゃん
I agree.
いえ、いいんです。
Ooh, before Momosuke could rise to her feet over Ban's insensitive comment, Yua stopped her.
私もおかしいって思いますから。
Oh, right. This is a conversation about like how her parents acted so weird.
集団ライブで飛び降りた5人には自殺する理由なんてなかった。家族や友人はみんなそう主張している。だがミヤさんの家族だけは違った。
Ban took his fan out from his belt and began cooling himself.
何も主張しなかった。あっさり受け入れたって聞いてる。あまりに何も言わなさすぎて奇妙だったってな。
Yeah, though that is really bizarre.
なんでだい？
お父さんもお母さんもみやちゃんが死んでからおかしくなっちゃったんです。
Oh. Anguish seeped from Yua's voice.
最初はみやちゃんの事件の知らせを受けた日はそれでも泣いていたんです。お父さんもお母さんもとても辛そうでした。でも次の日の朝、なぜか二人は楽しそうに笑っていたんです。みやちゃんが死ぬ前と全く同じに戻ってたんです。
Yeah.
たった一日で。
Only took a single day.
私、わけがわからなくて。二人はみやちゃんのこと忘れようとしてるんじゃないかって思って。そうしたらお父さんが笑いながら、
Oh no.
お前に妹なんていないよって。
You don't have a sister.
みやちゃんが残した洋服とか靴とかを見せても全然取り合ってくれないんです。それはお前のために予備で買ってあったものだって。そうやってお父さんたちはニュースからも警察の話からも目を背けて。
I mean, it just sounds like a delusion. So, like, it makes me wonder how involved they might have been with the... What's the church called? Like, I always think of it now as the guiding light. But maybe that's part of the deal since, like, it was like, oh, they're members of our group who had to go through something really traumatic. So we'll give them the benefit of, like, letting them forget.
記憶からみやちゃんのことを消し去ろうとしてるんです。
つまり双子じゃなかったことに。
Yeah.
それで警察にもうちは一人っ子だって言って追い返してたわけか。
私とみやちゃんは一卵性で、見た目は瓜二つなんですけど、あの子は、妹は親から嫌われていました。あの子はいつも自分の気持ちを押し殺して、私のことを一番に考えてくれていたんです。
As Yua spoke, memories from when Mia had still been alive resurfaced in her mind. First came a memory from when the two had still been in elementary school. One day, some relatives had brought the girls a single large teddy bear as a present. In contrast to the raw joy Yua displayed, Mia insisted that she did not like stuffed animals and proceeded not to even so much as look at the plush's way. Both her relatives and parents were upset at Mia for not acting like a child should. But despite Mia's protests, Yua whispered to her that the two of them could share it, and that there could be something they could both treasure. However, in response to her sister's kindness, Mia simply said that she did not want it, that Yua could have it. About a month later, when Yua had grown tired of the teddy bear, she woke up in the night and happened to witness a certain scene. Aww. Have we seen this before? Kind of, like, the story sounds familiar, but this looks different. And look at the ladybug pin, that's cute. Aww. With an incredibly joyful look on her face, Mia was hugging and talking to the bear plush. That was the first time Yua had ever seen her sister so happy. And from this, she realized that her sister's insistence about disliking stuffed animals had been a lie. Mia had been keeping her own feelings hidden, all for the sake of her older sister. The next day, Yua found a lovely drawing of a bear beneath Mia's pillow. Until her sister grew tired of the teddy bear, Mia had been hugging and sleeping with the drawing in lieu of it. Things very similar to this happened again and again over the 18 years they had spent together. For their birthday celebration, Yua had always blown the candles out of the cake, but when Mia was prompted to do it, she would say, "I refuse to do something so ridiculous," angering her parents. Yua's advanced to the private high school Sueme Academy. Mia, meanwhile, had been misbehaving at school, deliberately scoring low on exams, and thereby was moved on to a public high school. Due to the exorbitant fees, the parents would only have been able to afford sending one of them to a private school. No matter how hard Yua would try to let her sister have something, Mia would always gain the upper hand and force Yua to be prioritized. To achieve this end, she even intentionally took a dislikable attitude.
私は結局、みやちゃんの優しさに甘えて、今まで自分だけいい思いをしてきました。みやちゃんがいなくなって初めて、もっとあの子のために何かできることがあったはずだって、すごく後悔して、私が代わりに知ってあげればよかった。しかも挙句に、親に存在そのものを忘れられてしまうなんて、こんなの、あんまりです。
Yeah.
あんまりにも。
That's horrible.
悲しいです。
That's genuinely so depressing. Like, it's not like there's like a lot of happy stories in this game. Sena's like history, the truth about her sister was shocking, like just horrifying, like out of a horror movie. This one's like just depression, just straight depression. Yua, having now reached her limit, could no longer squeeze out any more words. She took off her glasses, pressed her fingers against the corners of her eyes, and broke down in tears. Momose sat down beside her and gently rubbed her back.
それでユアちゃんは一人で事件のことを調べていたらしいの。ミヤちゃんに一体何があったのか知るためにね。
そりゃ大変だったろう。
そして一人の人物を突き止めた。
As Momose held Yua's shoulder, she turned her eyes toward Ban.
西條匠くんよ。
なるほどね。
He's like, oh, well, she's on the right track. Stroking the stubble on his chin, Ban leaned forward from the sofa.
いつだったか西条と追跡劇をしてたっていう女子高生の話を所轄のデカから聞いたんだが。もしかしてユアちゃんだったりする？
Yua nodded apologetically.
興味あるな。詳しく聞かせてもおーと思ったけどちょっとごめんよ。
With a strained smile, Ban lightly bowed his head to Yua and Momose. His words had been interrupted by the cell phone in his suit pocket. He swiftly took out the phone and checked the screen. Sua's name was not displayed across it.
もしもし、どうした？
先輩、7番目っす。
なんだと？
Sua's voice sounded strained. The sound of investigators frantically scurrying about could be heard through the phone. Sua must have been at the investigation headquarters.
NewGen 第7の事件が起きたんすよ。
Ban's eyes opened wide and his expression turned bitter as his teeth sank into his lip. Sensing a seriousness in the situation from his behavior, Momose and Yua watched the detective with unease.
ガイシャは3人、友人同士らしいっす。3人とも胴体から体が切断されてて、それぞれの上半身と下半身を別々に入れ替えて手ぐす、釣りとっすね。それで縫い付けられてたっす。
This is the last one. And so it was you!
それと額にそれぞれ Q、D、N って読める傷が。
何かのメッセージか？
さあ、そこまでは。それと気になることが。司法解剖の結果分かったんすけど、ガイシャの胴体の切断部はノコギリとか包丁とかそういう刃物で切断されたものじゃないって。
どういう意味だ？
なんか強い力で引きちぎられたそうっす。
Yeah.
引きちぎられた。
By a rancor. Ban repeated Sua's words back to him with a low groan, then roughly scratched his head with his hand with the handle of his fan.
まるで怪獣だな。あるいは最近流行りの魔法使いとかな。
I like how you said kaiju.
先輩、それマジで言ってんすか？映画オタクの自分でもさすがにその意見には同意しかねるっす。
単なる例えだ、バカな。映画らさっさと捜査に戻れ。
After barking that order to Sua, Ban ended the call. All right. So this looks like it's going to be covered. It's starting with the US starting. I think we're starting to dive into like the actual stuff. So we're going to stop here. I know this is probably going to be a short episode because of how much I had to cut, but I have been recording for a while. It doesn't help that I've had a really not a great weekend. By the time you get this upload, you probably have seen some of the drama that's unfolded. Yeah, this week did not go great. Over the weekend, just stuff interfered and made it so that there was just not a lot of room to do much. There was like delays with uploading the content. Basically, based on how well this goes, editing wise, is going to determine whether or not I get to do trails this week, which I don't think it happened. Whether it happened or not, you'll already know. But I just I have to deprioritize it just because I know it'll take a while, and I only have so much time to record, and so I'm focusing on the visual novels, which is kind of always what I'm going to do. But it's unfortunate because I really want to play trails, but I just didn't have the means. And it sucks when that happens because, I hate putting stuff on the sidelines at all because I know it already takes long enough to do things as it is, but, that's just how it goes. So, anyway, we'll be ending here for now. Thank you so much for joining me for the channel. Thank you for joining me as we start the Yua route. It was really tough debate, really, I was thinking between Yua or ISA. Those were the two I was really strongly debating between, and I leaned on the Yua route because personally I think I found her more interesting as a character. We'll see how it holds out for me, but so far very intrigued, very much a fan of what we're reading. So, and I'm really curious to see too, because until the very end, Taku always seems to consider her an enemy because, granted, she's confronted him about very scary stuff and implied that he's a killer. I don't think any of us would be a fan of someone doing that to us, but I'm really curious to see how that means this will play out as a story, because it feels like for the routes they have to become allies. So are they going to become allies sooner, and how is that going to happen? I feel like that's really interesting, so it kind of got my curiosity. So I really wanted to see how this played out. So whilst I'm sure the ISA route is fantastic, and I will play it eventually, I wanted to do this one right now. So hope you enjoy that, and hopefully you're excited to see it. Thank you so much for your support, especially the patrons and members. You're wonderful. Your direct support, it means that I have more to work with when it comes to making art for the channel. It's highly motivating and supportive of the little things that go into the background of just trying to maintain things. With content as it moves forward, so I appreciate it. If I don't feel obligated, the support is completely voluntary. I definitely don't need it. I want to make content regardless. The dream is to eventually be able to make content 100%, because imagine how much more content we can make if I didn't have to work a full-time job. But that's a pipe dream at best. I'm just grateful that you're willing to support me and to believe enough in that dream to kind of move me closer to that eventual goal, even if it's still astronomically far away. It has to start somewhere, right? So I appreciate that faith. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this episode. I had a lot of fun seeing some of the scenes I still hadn't quite seen yet, and getting able to theorize a little bit, which is always very exciting. And I'm excited to see where we go from here. So thank you so much, and until the next video you watch with me, I hope to see me in next. I'll see you there.